In this video, I want to show you how you can take the pen box and customize it using some digital paper and maybe a logo or another image. So this is using one of the glitter pen boxes. This is the single version. So if you unzip it, the file once you purchase it, under SVG files you'll see 3 different versions. That's the same for the double version, which holds 2 pens. So one will have a large window which spans, so you'll see as it comes up, the large window looks like this, and then the no window is just a solid one that looks like that you could put your own, you could put a whole image on it, or you can put your own cuts in it, or holes. You could actually put like hearts and stuff like that, cut them out. And for the small window, that's one that has a little space. It shows at the bottom, but at the top you can add some images, so that I envisioned that as one that people might want to use. So let's go ahead and open that one. And in here we have, I always encourage Silhouette users to use the complete file. It brings in all pieces at once. So if you go in here, and you'll see there's 2 versions, and I'm going to preview it. So you can see one has dashed score lines, one has solid. You can utilize solid score lines in Silhouette, and in this video I'm going to show you it with that. But if you just want to cut them, it's going to be the same process. The difference is that it'll cut the dash lines. This will do cutting them, but it'll be like a kiss cut. Really, so some people prefer the dash lines, so use which one you have a preference to use. And I'm just going to drag it in. So we'll go ahead and minimize that. So right now I'm not going to maximize this yet, not quite yet. So you can see we have 2 files in here. This is the insert that holds the pen. So you probably don't want to print and cut that, but if you want to, you do the same process. So I'm going to assume you're going to use a solid piece of cardstock for that. I'm just going to move it to the side off the mat. So we're just going to work with the actual box. This is grouped, so it's moving around, and that's fine. So now what we want to do, we want to add whatever we want to add to it, right? So we're just going to use digital paper. This is not to show you how to use digital paper, but I'm going to show you how you can use theirs. So let me maximize this. And if you look in the lower right hand corner, if you click on that, it's going to preview your library. So it's going to hide your library. So what's kind of cool about Silhouette is that you can do this, and I'm right here, you can see there's a logo of mine. Don't do that. So if you click on it, so make sure you're clicked off of this. I'm going to bring the logo in, and you want to right click and say merge. So I'm going to bring that in. So if I wanted to, I could just add that at the same color, just size it a little bit. And that's the simple thing. There are some there's additional prep we have to do for print and cut, but for right now, let's just say we wanted to do that. We could do that. So let me just move that right now. I'm going to move it for a second, and we're going to do some prep in a minute. But if you want to add a, if I click on the whole thing and I go down to patterns here, and these are patterns that you can, this is where you can drag in digital paper. So I'm going to show you, I'm just going to take some digital paper I purchased from snapclick.com. I'm just going to drag this one in right here. Just going to drag it in. I'm going to minimize that. I'm looking for it. I think it goes alphabetical, but you can do it sort by date modified. And then it's right here. So when that's highlighted like that and I click on this, it just adds it. So because it's kind of a shape like you see, like stripes, we're going to go over here on the right hand side, this little palette icon, which is the fill panel, and then we want to go all the way to this icon right here. And I'm just going to do a little modifying to it under advanced options. So I just clicked on that little doohickey there. And I want to rotate that paper so the lines are going lengthwise. So right here you can see it says rotate pattern 90 degrees. So that's what I wanted. The other thing is you can make it smaller or larger. This is not a print to cut, but I'm just kind of showing you because some people might not know how to do this. And sometimes it takes a while for it to show on your screen. Make sure it's highlighted first. There we go. So I just made it, you don't want to make it too small because of the repeating patterns. But anyways, I made it that way. So the other thing, so now I have that. And let's just say I'm going to close this window. I want to add my logo. You can't see it, right? So you could always add some background to it. So let's go ahead and hide this. So click on this little icon to hide your library. And over here I'm going to add a rectangle. I'm going to do it down here so I can see it. It's clear. I don't really want it clear, so let's go up in the upper left-hand corner and put a color behind it. So I'm just going to make it white. Then I'm going to go, let's go Object, Arrange, Send Backwards. Let's go Send to Back. So now that box is behind the square. So what I'm going to do is go up here back to Select. Then I'm going to highlight both of them. And up at the top it has this little center. I'm going to center it. I want this to be a little bit bigger. I want it to fit. So let's go ahead and center it again. I'm going to go ahead and group it. Let's see, let's go ahead and place it there. And you can see there's like a weird little line here. That happens with digital paper. So let's go ahead and fix that. So what we need to do is highlight this again, go to Advanced Options, and we want to pan the pattern. So if you click that, you see this little crosshair. You want to move it right and left. So you can see if you don't like that, we'll have to scale it up a little bit so we don't see that. And then you can pan pattern if you like a certain thing on the front. So I want that little bit of white and the green on the front there. So that looks better. So if we were to print and cut it like now, so we can't print and cut yet because we want to make sure that we're within the printable and cuttable areas. So what you want to do is close this window, go over here to the page setup panel. I have it set to letter size, which most people can print from on their printer. Then you go over to this third panel over here for registration marks. Go ahead and click it on. So you see we can't have any of it in this little hashed area. So we're going to just highlight everything and move it down. Make sure it's not in this hash mark. So it has to be between all these and it can't be in the hash mark. So it can't be right here and it won't work. So it has to be in an area like that. So we have it where it will print and cut. Then over here, which you might want to change it to, oops, let me go down here. I'm sorry, on this one, print bleed, and what that means is I'll see basically it'll put a little print a little bit more of the pattern around it, so when you cut it out you don't have white edges. That's what it does. So now if I went right now and said send, and I just want to actually, let's go file print. If I did it right now, you would see things like these black lines, the score lines. We don't want to see the score lines. So we need to hide them. We don't want to see the lines around this little Simply Crafty SVGs either. So we need to fix that. I zoomed out a little because if you don't want to print and cut this right now, if you don't want to cut this out, you can always delete it and it'll alleviate some confusion, but I'm going to show you what you might see if you use this, if you have this still in your project. So you could always pull it in later. So when I said we need to clean it up to do a print and cut, there are a couple things. So when you bring in, so I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to ungroup it. When I brought that in, it has a transparent background, and we kind of want to put a background, we want to put lines around it. So we're going to put a color line up here. Let's make it kind of crazy color. I'll show you why. So I'm going to make it purple. I believe I made it purple. And we're going to move it back where we want it. And I still can see these score marks and everything else. And the reason is it has to do with how we're going to print and cut. So right now we have those lines around that, and there are no lines around the actual box. So the box has no lines when you highlight it. There's actually no lines, but you can't, if you hit the little drop down, line is transparent. So what we want to do before we print it out, first of all, make sure you are printing the correct size, which is letter. I'm doing letter on portrait. And right here, and of course, you can do the show print border too. But really, if you're within that red, you're going to be better. So I'm going to highlight everything, pull it down a little bit in the middle. And then we have the little registration marks on before we print it. So if we did we're going to go ahead and we have to hide all the lines, including the score lines for now. So let's go over here. Hit this drop down and click nothing. So that with the little triangle in it means no line color. So you can see there's no line color. So when I go File, Print, you can't see those dark lines anymore, just the paper and the logo. So now let's go ahead and do a print. So I want to check my preferences because I can print from different trays and all that. So I'm going to make sure it's the right type. I'm printing cardstock. So you just need to do this for your own printer. And I have a rear feed for mine and make sure it's letter size. Click OK, print. And then once it prints, I will show you how to cut it. So now we have to unhide the score lines we just hid. So just go click on undo up here until they come back. So it's right there. So the lines are back. The lines will be how we determine how it cuts and scores. So once you get those back, come back to the send, go to send. So right now I have the printed piece of paper on my mat, and I will show you a little videotape of the cutting. But now we have now you can see all these lines, how it's cutting. So if it were simple, it would cut all these lines out. We don't want to cut them out. We want some of them to score. So we want to click up here on the line option. And you see how it says gray? Gray refers to this one. So let's uncheck them all so you can understand what's going to cut and not cut. So the purple right here, if I highlight that, it'll cut that. We don't want it cut, so we want to keep that unchecked. This one is gray. When I check it, nothing highlights. It's over here. So we don't want to worry about that. Keep that unchecked. Checking this highlights the score lines. So we do want to do the little kiss cut on the solid score lines. So to do that, let's go down here and I'm going to say cardstock plain. I'm using a pretty heavy Nina cardstock, but I'm saying plain. I'm going to tell it to score, and it's going to use auto blade, and I'm going to do that for now. If you have a second, if you can use a ratchet blade, because I believe Cameo 4s can't, but I have a Cameo 3, so you can also use a different tool. I use a ratchet blade in the second tool, and that's also set to score. It's always set at 1, so it's up to you. And right here, this will really only work for auto blades. So down here, I just make sure that the score is set to 1. And you could even do the force a little bit less if you don't want it to score as much. So you just kind of have to play around with that for your machine. Then I'm going to check this one. And now it highlights the outside of it. So that means it's going to cut it. And we want it to cut. I want it heavy texture. But I'm going to change it a little bit because I'm going to change down here to 4 because I know it cuts better for 4. So it's just a matter of how your cardstock cuts. So this is score, that's cut. So I'm going to move this up because I want it to score first. And then when it's set like this, we can go ahead and load the mat and then go ahead and send it. So we're going to go ahead and click on send. and you probably can hear it in the background. So it's got to register the register marks that goes around and verifies these little marks here. And hopefully you got it in correctly. Sometimes it doesn't register correct the first time. And then it starts cutting. So you can hear the auto blade. So now it's going to just start cutting. And as you can see, you're now seeing it cut. And it's just going to cut the outside. First it's going to cut the score lines, and then it'll cut the remainder. So at this point it finished scoring, but now it's going to cut it because we told it to cut it second. So you can see it's cutting around the edges there. Then shortly it should be done so we can unload. And you can see it print and cut it. So here it is cut out. So I kind of started folding it. So you can see if you've never used the solid score lines before on Silhouette, you'll have to play around with your paper, do a little testing first. But it makes it way cleaner than the dash lines, and it kind of just cuts just a little bit into the paper. This one was a little bit deeper than I wanted, but that's just getting used to the paper that you use. So let's go ahead and just fold this. I think it's just fun to have digital paper, other things. You can add like adding the logo that I did. It's just fun, personalizes it. But other ways to do this is just like to print out stickers. That would be easy, and just do it on pattern paper or print out the paper first, but it's up to you. Just a different technique. I'm going to go ahead and close the bottom part. And how fun is that? So if you liked this technique and you liked our video, please give us a little thumbs up and or subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching.